Hey, what's up guys? John here. Cities across America are collapsing under their own weight. Rents are skyrocketing, businesses are closing, and Americans are fighting just to survive. In Los Angeles, for instance, the state just wrote and passed a new law that could change housing in the city forever.
A new law aimed at boosting housing near public transportation. It sets statewide zoning standards near train stations and major bus stops, opening the door for more mid-rise apartment buildings.
Forcing cities to fast-track new laws that would usher in low-income housing, like Section 8, onto land that was once off limits. And on the other side of the country, in New York City, a new rising political star is pushing forward for free transit. He says that these free buses will be paid for by the wealthy.
That I believe these are the most straightforward ways that we can actually fund universal childcare, making buses fast and free. And I've said that the two clear ways to do so, raising personal income taxes on the top 1% by 2%, and raising the corporate tax to match that of New Jersey's corporate tax of 11.5%.
Two completely different cities, one fighting for housing, the other fighting for free transportation. They both claim that they're trying to make life more affordable again. But here's the one question that they both face. When the government steps in to fix this crisis, are we going to see a solution, or are we going to see the problem grow even further? Last year, I spent time in Los Angeles, and I felt like the city has went in the wrong direction. What used to once be one of the most beautiful cities in America now is littered with tents, trash, and graffiti. Families were leaving, investors were pulling out, going out of state, and a lot of my childhood friends in LA said, you know what, this city has changed and we have to consider another alternative. So now the government in California has decided to step in. Governor Gavin Newsom just signed a package of housing reform laws, the biggest in the state's history. The main one, SB 79, fast-tracks apartments and affordable housing near transportation zones.
Governor Gavin Newsom officially signed a package of bills into law he says will address California's housing crisis. The legislation will fast-track housing construction statewide, especially in urban areas.
In downtown areas and even locations impacted by the fires. Local governments cannot block these projects anymore. The state's message is basically, if you won't build, we will make you. On paper, sounds like a fix. More supply equals lower rents, means things are going to get more affordable. But here's the problem. LA's rental market is not short on buildings. It's short on people who can afford to live in them. Developers and real estate investors are struggling with high insurance, high borrowing costs, and draconian rental laws that impact their own investments. So now the state is telling these very investors that they need to build more, they need to do more. And this is in an economy where a lot of great investors have left that very market. And that is where the story gets very interesting, because California is betting that they could build their way out of this problem. New York City is trying the opposite approach, making the city cheaper to live in without structurally changing the housing stock. Zohran Mamdani is taking a different approach, make every bus in the city free. No Metro card, no fare, just walk in and go.
What if you could ride the bus in New York City for free? That's the vision from Zohran Mamdani. Critics say it's unrealistic, even dangerous. Supporters call it the future of public transit.
He says the money lost on fares, about $700 million, could be captured by increased taxes. A 2% increase on the top 1% of earners, and a higher corporate tax rate to match New Jersey.
We will make buses free by replacing the revenue that the MTA currently gets from buses. This is revenue that's around $700 million or so. That's less money than Andrew Cuomo gave to Elon Musk and $959 million in tax credits when he was the governor.
In his words, we'll fund the revenue that would have come from fares in a partnership with Albany. It's not just about buses. It's about sending a message where the billionaires keep getting richer, the government should make daily life easier for everyone else. And they allege that the early test actually worked. When New York City ran a pilot program on 5 bus routes, they say ridership rose between 30 and 40%, and this is mostly from lower income neighborhoods. But critics say it's un-American, it's unlawful, and it's not that simple. But someone has to pay for it. And once they make it free, it's impossible to take it back. As they say, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. The MTA is already billions of dollars in debt, and that's controlled by the state, not the city. So even if the city wants free buses, they can't do it alone. Still, Mamdani's plan taps into the energy we're seeing in California. A belief that laws can solve what markets can't, whether it's in housing or transportation. What Los Angeles and New York are both proving in two completely different ways. It's that even the biggest cities cannot outrun economics. You can't just build your way out of unaffordability. And you can't spend other people's money to get out of it either. In LA, after nearly 3 years of an eviction moratorium, they're now telling developers to come in, trust the city, and build more. And during that period, insurance has nearly doubled, borrowing costs have doubled.
Homeowners' insurance rates are rising across the country.
Homeowners nationwide are facing a crisis, right? Skyrocketing insurance premiums or outright policy non-renewal.
And the laws against landlords have gotten more draconian than ever before. In New York City, politicians promise free transit for everyone. Free this, free that. But the MTA is drowning in billions of debt as they push business owners and large successful companies and entrepreneurs out of the city with higher and higher taxes. On paper, they say that both ideas make sense. More housing equals lower rents, and free buses allow people to get to work. But the question is, who really pays the price when these plans collide with reality? Because when the money runs out, it's never the politicians who have to write the check. It's the American people. It's the mom and pop landlords who suffer. It's the tenants inside of these very buildings where the landlords can't afford to maintain them with the new laws, the new insurance quotes, the new energy bills, the new carrying costs. They just can't hold on. It's the commuters who get slower, fewer buses because the city simply can't maintain the amount of traffic on these buses and the cost of repairing these buses. Both LA and New York City claim that they want to make life fair and more equitable. But when has that ever happened? And that's the tension that every American city is facing right now. We're trying to legislate our way to affordability instead of allowing capitalism to work in the way it was designed to. If we go to local DMV, you can see just how a government-run organization works. Imagine how that would be running the entire transportation system in New York City. Imagine how that would work in Los Angeles, building and controlling housing stock. We've been told how cities are racing to rebuild housing, transit, energy, and it all takes one thing that's a part of this entire transformation: copper.
Copper is one of the most in-demand metals on the planet right now, an essential element in electrifying the world.
Around the world, the race for copper is intensifying.
Well, everyone's talking about AI, data centers, and EVs, but the real story isn't chips or batteries, it's copper. The world's running out of it just as global demand is exploding. That's where Mogotes Metals, ticker MOGMF on the OTC, and MOG in Canada comes in. They're drilling right now in Chile's Vicuña Copper District, one of the richest copper belts on Earth. The project sits right next door to Filo Mining's massive $4.5 billion Canadian discovery, the biggest copper find in the last 30 years. Mogotes is fully funded by an $18 million USD raise, backed by the billionaire Braun family, and the first drill program is starting any day now, with copper officially added to the US critical minerals list. This play isn't just about mining. It's about energy, AI infrastructure, and national security. If you're following early stage resource companies with serious discovery potential, Mogotes Metals is one to watch closely. Check them out at mogotesmetals.com. That's mogotesmetals.com. Ticker MOGMF. This is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Every law like this has winners and losers. In Los Angeles, the winners are going to be developers that can still afford to build with these new government incentives. The losers, small mom and pop landlords who moved to California, specifically Los Angeles, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and bought a triplex, a fourplex, picked up a couple properties in East LA, and they thought, this is going to be my retirement plan. Then 2020 hit, got hit with a 3-year eviction moratorium, followed by insurance rates that have essentially doubled, stricter rent control laws, and now a population that's slowly moving out of LA. They're seeing rents soften. And then you add this on top of a lot of new inventory that's likely going to get built, you're going to see rents likely soften further. And in New York, free buses sound great until someone has to strike the check. $700 million bucks, it's a lot of money. And that usually means higher prices, higher taxes, and a climate that's less friendly for business owners. Who? By coincidence, the ones picking up the check. For working class renters and commuters, the plan's simple. Cheaper housing, cheaper transit. They say a fair shot in the city that they grew up in, to get by and thrive. But when cities run out of money, that dream is generally sold to the highest bidder. And that's how ownership quietly shifts from families to funds, to people trying to make a living, to corporations seeing this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to seize the wealth from the middle class. They claim both LA and New York City are here to help the people. But the big question is, are these policies going to help the people, or is it going to help the corporations? So what happens next? In the next couple of years, we'll see New York City and Los Angeles become test cases for other cities in America. What happens when cities try to build affordability from the top down? In California, thousands of new apartments will be forced to be built. The question is whether people will actually be able to afford to live in them. In New York City, the free buses could change millions of lives daily, or it could drain the city's budget faster than anyone expects. Both ideas come from the same place: frustration, a feeling that the system stopped working for ordinary people, and that finally the government has to do something about it. But good intentions, they don't pay the bills. Laws can change zoning maps or erase bus fares, but they do not rewrite basic economics. And that's the story of these major cities in America. They're trying to legislate their way out of these problems that money, math, markets, and some would even say the local politicians created. Maybe LA will prove that state-run buildings work. Maybe New York City will show that public transit can actually be free. Or maybe both cities will realize that it's a hell of a lot easier to promise affordability and sell the dream than it is to actually deliver on it. Either way, the next couple of years will show us what breaks first: the system or the people living inside it. What do you think about this entire situation that's unfolding right now in Los Angeles and in New York City? What do you think life will be like as an entrepreneur or an everyday American in either one of these cities? Let's have a conversation below, and I'll catch you next video.